Hello again. I fully appreciate that there are a lot of people that want to read the Bible but really don't know how or where to start. The good news is there are many different schemes and programs for reading the Bible in manageable chunks and in bite-sized pieces. It's a bit like eating an elephant, but you can do it just one bite at a time. Now, here's an interesting fact. The average person reads about 200 to 250 words per minute. There are about 775,000 words in the Bible. Therefore, it takes less than 10 minutes a day to read the whole Bible in a year. Now, I've been reading the Bible for 50 plus years, and I've tried many different approaches, many different ways, and sometimes I just jump around different sections, sometimes I read it chronologically, or read it from cover to cover. But there always comes places where I get really stuck. And I'm okay with lists of numbers and lists of names, but the one thing I really struggle with is books like the Prophets of Doom, like Jeremiah, who not only wrote the book by his own name, but is also believed to have written much of the book entitled Lamentations. Now, I've been talking about lament in the Psalms, and there is, a whole book devoted to lamenting. It is only 5 chapters long, but it follows very much that same pattern. It talks about the situation where God's people are in exile. And it starts, "How lonely sits the city that was full of people. How like a widow she has become. She who was great among the nations. She who was a princess among the provinces has become a slave. She weeps bitterly in the night with tears on her cheeks. Among all her lovers she has none to comfort her. All her friends have dealt treacherously with her. They have become her enemies." And after pouring out the woes and the pleads and crying out to God for 2.5 chapters, the writer comes up with these words, "But this I call to mind, and therefore I have hope. The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. The Lord is my portion, says my soul. Therefore I will hope in him. The Lord is good to those who wait for him, to the soul who seeks him." You see, for the vast majority of people in this world, things are not the way that they were meant to be. Now, I am a very privileged person, a white male, living in the UK, born within commuting distance of London. But I have been able to travel around the world, not just as a tourist, but to go and visit homes, to live in shanties with people, to be fed the meagre rations that they have, but they make a feast out of it, to sit in the dust with children that are suffering from AIDS. And for them, there is so much that is not right. There is so much injustice. There is so much suffering, so much pain. Lament has a very true place. You see, and I don't think that I've fully understood the role of lament. It hasn't been taught in our churches the way it should have been. Because for them, lament is actually all about life. Now, a short while ago, I did read of one worship tradition where the role of lament was very much embraced in their worship. It would start, anyone that had a grievance, anyone that had something that they needed to come before God with, would come to the altar, and that they would stand. They would lift up their hands to heaven, they would kneel, they would do whatever needed, they would cry out their heart to God. And then others in the congregation would simply come and stand with them. Come and stand by their side. Maybe place a hand on their shoulder. Their role wasn't to fix a problem, to provide an answer or a solution, but to stand with them. Being a bit of a football fan, I was really pleased that the Premier League season has restarted. But what pleased me even more was when those first matches started last night, that at the beginning of the game each of the players took a knee. And I think for me it's quite amazing that for the first time globally that we are seeing people of all races, declare and stand with our black brothers and sisters. That is what lament is about. That is what we are doing globally. We are currently lamenting. And the great news is that this book of Lamentations ends with these verses. But you, O Lord, reign forever. Your throne endures to all generations. Restore us to yourself, O Lord, that we may be restored. Renew our days as of old.